The 9/11 Memorial and Museum has been officially dedicated by President Obama. Now, this week, the museum will finally open its doors to the public. But not everybody is thrilled. Some say the site should be private to first responders, survivors, and families, while others are sounding off in opposition of the museum's gift shop, asking, is it appropriate? And ex-state Senate leader Joe Bruno cleared of federal corruption charges. What could this mean for others who are charged with similar crimes? And former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is right in the line of fire as the GOP launches an aggressive assault against her, from Benghazi to brain damage allegations. Republicans not holding back. Could all this attention actually serve Clinton well in her possible run for the White House? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us this Monday evening, May 19th. And tonight we begin in Lower Manhattan, where, as we brought to you last week, the 9/11 Memorial and Museum will open its doors to the public this week. President Obama dedicated the museum last week in a very moving ceremony, and it was toured by dignitaries, first responders, survivors, and family members who lost loved ones on that tragic day. The museum, which features artifacts, videos, and audio recordings from 9/11, also had a gift shop inside. It's got everything that any other gift shop would have, like coffee mugs, t-shirts, keychains, stuffed animals. And more than a few folks are completely appalled by this, mainly because there's also a tomb for unidentified victims underneath the site. Okay, one woman who lost her son in the tragedy says, "To me, it's the crassest, most insensitive thing to have a commercial enterprise at the place where my son died." John Field, a guest on this program and Ground Zero demolition supervisor, agrees, saying these people are suffering and they don't need to be reaching into their pockets. The museum could have gone 6 days without asking for money.
Take the remains out of the museum, and then I think there will be less opposition to the selling of the trinkets and the hats and the shirts.
My son's friends are going to have to pay $24 to go down and pay their respects. I think that's a disgrace. It's the only cemetery in the world where you have to pay a fee to get in.
And that $24 is the fee that everyone's being asked to pay when they get in. I want to bring in my panel right now, and tonight we're joined by the resplendent in blue, Jeannie Zaino, professor of political science at Iona College and professor of campaign management at NYU, doing double duty. Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, getting the memo on blue. Jonathan Yedden, Democratic consultant with the Advance Group, who didn't get the memo. Also former executive director for the Kings County Democratic Party. I like the purple tie. Okay. All seriousness, though, I thought we talked about this. The memorial, I thought they got it just right. And I think the museum and the memorial, again, just right. But we got a few factors at play here. This, going forward, will be sustained completely by private dollars. So it won't be government subsidized, and that means the upkeep and everything else, whether it's the fees, the $24 a head to go in there to pay, or also proceeds from the gift shop, those are the revenues that at least on the surface will do it. But on the same end, look at it, keychains and stuffed animals when you think your loved one might be below with the remains. I get their point. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you understand their point. You know, they don't want the tchotchkes and those things. I think, you know, they may be okay with books and other types of memorabilia that are more respectful. But I think, you know, Senator Gillibrand has a point when she says, if we could get the funding, because the issue is all about money. How do you fund this thing? Yep. The tickets, the price of the tickets it's high. If you take a family of 4, it's a lot of money. And of course, you need to fund this thing. So maybe the answer is to try to get some federal funding to make it a national foundation.
Well, we know how tough that is. I'm going to talk later on. We have fights over bulletproof vests for cops. I'm going to go on a rant a little later in the hour about that. I know. But to Jeannie's point, 2 of them, it's $100. You bring a family of 4 there, and on the other end, the gift shop on the site. I understand both sides. The gift shop, you know, it kind of reminds me, Dominic, when people were posing for photos. You covered it too. I was down there at Ground Zero in the aftermath of 9/11. You still had smoke coming out of the ground, and you have people, tourists, posing for photos like it's some tourist site behind it, and it always got me. It's the same kind of feeling, I know, for folks who say, wait a minute, this is hollow ground. We shouldn't be selling, you know, a T-shirt or a coffee mug here right on that ground. What do you think?
I don't mean to sound insensitive as it relates to this issue, but with the families that lost loved ones, they will never get over this. Many of us that had friends won't get over it.
Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, I would hate to be the mayor or the governor that's making this decision, because they have to make the best interest for the entire city, not just for the families. And this is whether we want to admit it or not, it's a world-class attraction where people are coming from all over the world to see it. And so I don't see anything wrong with charging the $24. You have to sustain it. You're not going to get the money from the federal government. That's dead on arrival.
Wait, just one thing though, Tommy, because you know this even better than me. You would think with the philanthropy in New York City,
Right.
in one evening, they could raise the nut, right? To sustain this thing all year, that they wouldn't have to have a fee to get in. Don't you think?
I would
I mean,
agree with you.
how many billionaires would love to
agree
say,
with you.
I'm giving 10 mil?
I would agree with you, but I also want to address the souvenir aspect of this. Let's be honest. I know this doesn't sound PC, but let's be honest. If you don't have that store, anyone that knows that area knows that you're going to have a million vendors around there.
They're already there.
They're already there, selling all types of things.
Yeah.
So let's, almost like you're at the ballpark. So why not just do it in a classy way by having a souvenir?
I don't know.
souvenir
I don't
store?
know. You can do it in a classy way. And Ralph, our director, reminds me, if I have, if you've ever been to Pearl Harbor, also Hollow Ground, that's $25 also to be
Also,
going in there.
Anne Frank's house is the
Yep.
same kind of museum and store and cost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The entrance fee I understand, but they should have done a better job with
Yeah.
respect to the gift shop and the types of items they have there.
How do you
they could
not
have
see
done
this
much more
coming, is my
respectfully.
point. Right on that,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, I mean, this has been in the works now for a decade. You know.
This, Jonathan, to me is the trickier part. If you read between the lines, and not even between the lines from some of the families, they believe like the museum should be private and not be public, not be open to the general public. And I understand their concerns over the fee, over the gift shop, but this is a piece of national history.
That's what it is, you're right.
It's awful history, but it's part of our history right now. Our kids are going to learn about it in school, learn the lessons of history, or you're doing to repeat them, that kind of thing.
Right.
You can't close this thing off to the world.
You can't. I get the sensitivity behind it and all from their perspective, but there's no way. We need to relive. We need to learn. We need to teach, and it needs to be something that we open up to everybody, so that everybody is aware of what happened and why, and where we go from there.
And remember, many of these families from the beginning, they didn't want it. They didn't want anything there.
Yeah.
So you cannot please all of them. That's why you have to have independent people.
And they're not one monolithic group.
Right. Independent people removed from it,
What
making
about
these
those
decisions.
separating the remains from the museum?
I thought
and
that
the
made
I
sense.
mean, that's one of the things that may make sense, because I see your point. I think I heard Rudy Giuliani recently saying the same thing. Basically, you've got 80% agreement and 20%. You're never going to please all the families and friends of these victims.
And
There's
we've
too
seen
many
that
of
with the
them.
settlements and everything
Yeah.
else over the time here. It is interesting. We heard that sound here from Norman Siegel, who made the point, who was there with a firefighter who lost his son there, who said the same thing. The idea that I'm going in my pocket to really, in effect, go to a place to grieve, there's a distasteful nature to it, but I don't know. I don't know how this thing all gets sorted out here, but you can tell there will definitely not be unanimity no matter what they do. But I want to see it. I don't know about you guys. I really want to go, and from what I understand, and we played some of it, there is some moving audio from the people in those last moments, from the first responders who were literally going up the steps as people were fleeing to hopefully safety. And there's painful reminders, but I think on that kind of a place, you have to have that. It can't just be in memoriam. You got to remember why the day is so awful, and why it still dictates so much of this country's policy.
Absolutely.
Almost 13 years later, right? Yeah. Okay, everybody, I want to ask you at home the same question that I've posed to our panel here, and you can go to Facebook and Twitter and make your opinion heard. Do you think the 9/11 Memorial and Gift Shop is inappropriate here? Is that gift shop, as a way to raise revenue, not the right kind of venue given the location? All right, we will get to those responses later. But coming up next, ex-New York State Senator Joe Bruno cleared of all federal corruption charges. And to me, while that's interesting in and of itself, the more interesting point is what they in effect said is legal. What does this mean for others who not only face similar charges, but how Albany does business going forward? We'll get into that